The last thing they heard was laughter. Not just any laugh, a human laugh. Dry. Confident. Too familiar for a galaxy that swore the species off like a bad addiction. It crackled through a dozen channels, overriding Karth command frequencies, seeping into automated distress loops. Then came the static. Then came silence. The Karth Dominion's salvage crew had ignored the warnings, because of course they did. The obsidian vault had been sealed for 5,000 years, surrounded by dead stars and ancient kill satellite husks. It screamed danger, which meant it had to be valuable. So they rang the bell. And the gods of war woke up. Commander Dren Malric opened his eyes with a sharp inhale, like a man surfacing from a 1,000-year dive. Cryo-fluid peeled from his skin in threads of mist. His first thoughts weren't panic, or confusion, or curiosity. They were disappointment. Still alive, he muttered. Damn. The air was wrong. Too sterile. No familiar AI hum. His armor wasn't responding. He blinked twice, tapped the dermal pad under his collarbone, and the chamber around him lit up in pulses of dull red. Emergency mode. Figures. He moved with practiced ease, slow stretch, spine pop, shoulder roll. He was naked. Of course. They always unfroze you naked. Something about psychological vulnerability helping reorientation. He hated it. 30 seconds later, a Karth drone floated through the vault corridor and got its head punched in. Malric wrapped its cables around his arm like a sling, pulled data from its processor through the spinal port, and finally got a visual. Karth Dominion. Stardate logs confirmed it had been 5,132 years since Protocol Dreambreaker was initiated. Earth was gone. Good. They followed the plan. He hadn't been woken because of Earth. He'd been woken because someone had triggered the bell. Idiots, he whispered. Who rings a goddamn bell labeled "Do Not Wake" and expects cake? He moved. No hesitation. Found the corpse of a Karth soldier leaning against a shattered cryo panel. Plasma burned. Gun melted to slag. Malric took his boots, a half-armored chest plate, and a utility belt. The gun he left. Too primitive. Too loud. The hallway opened to a docking bay filled with scavenged tech and half-assembled research stations. They were studying the vault. Recording the signals. Mapping the walls. Worse, they tried to override the cryo-control systems. That's how you get cursed. Or in this case, educated. Computer, Malric said to the dark room. Run Command Echo 7. Set language to Terran Standard. Relay all Karth frequencies through emotional inversion filters. Let's make them panic. No answer. But the lights flickered, just enough to let him know some ancient systems still heard him. It was enough. His first message went out moments later, hijacking every Karth ship nearby. 4 words. I'm coming. Stay awake. Panic flared across their tactical grid. Ships pulled back. Some fired blindly into the void. Others locked onto the vault's location, readying missiles. Good. Let them try. He'd walked into worse situations with less than a jumpsuit and a spiteful grin. A Karth officer stormed in from the outer bay doors, blaster raised, shouting in the Dominion's trade tongue. Malric didn't answer. He caught the shot on his stolen chest plate, closed the distance, and shoved the man into the wall with bone-cracking force. Then, in perfect trade, he whispered, Do you know what I am? The Karth spat in defiance. Malric smiled. You will. He activated the dead soldier's personal comm on a private frequency and spoke 6 words that would later be banned across 3 star systems. Echo this on every psychic channel. Then he said something worse, a fragment of old Earth war code, and encoded him that triggered buried recognition pathways in Karth neural implants. Not damage. Just memory. Weaponized history. The result? Chaos. Across the fleet, Dominion soldiers began hallucinating. Some saw Earth burning. Others saw giant figures made of fire and sorrow stepping through shattered portals. A few collapsed in prayer. One tried to amputate his own arm to remove the ancestral mark. None of it was real. Except the fear. That was very, very real. Back in the docking bay, Malric dragged the officer to the terminal. Tell me where the rest of the Bell units are. The officer whimpered. What do you mean rest? There's just this one. Malric's voice went flat. You think there's one Bell for all of humanity? Terror widened the alien's eyes. Oh no, friend, Malric said softly. There were 7. And you just rang one. Which means others might hear it. And they are not nearly as polite as me. He left the officer whimpering and moved toward the main console. He needed off this station. Fast. The Karth would either bomb it or board it. He couldn't afford either. He didn't wake up for diplomacy. He woke up because something worse was coming, and someone thought waking up a sleeping god was their best chance at survival. Cowards. Idiots. But not wrong. The console beeped. A Karth cruiser had landed on the surface. Reinforcements. Malric watched their squad deploy, heard their boots through the ductwork. He turned on the intercom. Welcome, he said. Today's lesson is fear. Chapter 1, Why You Should Have Let Me Sleep. Then he hit the music file. An old Earth track played, slow jazz, gritty vocals. The kind that didn't belong on a battlefield, which made it perfect. By the time they reached the corridor, Malric was gone. So were the lights. The only thing left was the drone he rewired, floating silently, playing the same 4 words in a loop. I'm coming. Stay awake. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. The first Karth ship didn't explode. It turned inside out. One moment, it was arming plasma batteries. The next, the crew was screaming as their internal sensors started playing Earth's lullabies, encoded with data packets laced in fractal recursion. Not malware. Worse. Culture. Dren Malric watched from the wreckage of the vault's comms bay, 1 foot resting on a dead drone. The cruiser's hull shimmered like it was remembering something painful. Its engines howled, reversed direction, then imploded with a quiet sigh. He didn't smile. That wasn't the point. Behind him, the second wave was already on approach. 7 ships. Scanning. Jamming. Preparing for full kinetic assault. Predictable. He flicked a switch on the drone's cracked interface and whispered into the galactic open channel. Come on then. Let's see if your nightmares are up to date. They arrived guns hot. Malric let them. He stayed still, watching their tactical pattern, triangular, staggered fallback ready, shielding on rear engines, standard Dominion doctrine. It would have worked if he hadn't written half of it. He whispered an old Earth military prayer in Latin, the kind taught to deep field units for morale. But he wasn't praying. He was embedding a trigger. The second cruiser broke formation first. It turned away from the group and opened fire on its own escort. The others hesitated. Too slow. Malric activated protocol reverie. Old Earth tech buried under the vault's flooring responded. An ancient relic of psychological warfare, once banned by the Terran Concord. A neuroresonance pulse swept through every Dominion ship in orbit. He didn't need to fire a shot. They screamed for him. He patched into the open distress line, not even bothering to encrypt the signal. I told you not to wake me. I wasn't trying to be poetic. I meant it literally. Who are you? A voice asked. Panicked. Unfamiliar accent. Young. Malric responded coldly. I'm your lesson. The fleet scattered. 2 jumped early and collided mid-warp. 1 ship melted its own comms and launched escape pods in random vectors. The last cruiser deployed ground troops in desperation, maybe assuming he couldn't face them all. He welcomed the effort. The Karth soldiers arrived in tight formation, disciplined. Plasma rifles. Field armor. Optical visors. Trained killers, but none of them had fought humans before. Malric met them in the corridors leading to the vault's inner sanctum. He had no armor, no gun. Just a reinforced gauntlet, a flashbang injector, and his voice. Put down your weapons, he said calmly. They hesitated. Their leader barked an order to fire. He ducked, rolled, hit the wall, and activated the injector. The room filled with disorienting noise, earth screams, infant cries, thunder in reverse. The Karth panicked. Their visors overloaded. Their rifles misfired. He didn't give them a second chance. 2 down with a single movement, a neck snap, a stolen blade to the gut. 3 more with pressure point strikes, and their own gear turned against them. The last soldier dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. "Why are you doing this?" the Karth whimpered. Malric crouched beside him. "You think I want to be awake? You broke the seal, rang the bell, and expected to control what came out. That's not how humans work. We don't forget. We wait." The soldier shivered. "We thought you were extinct." "I wish we were." He left the survivor alive. Fear was more useful than death. Malric made his way to the vault's upper spire, tapping into the satellite feed that looped around the dead star. Global broadcast systems still worked, though primitive. He uploaded a 10-second burst of old Earth propaganda, images, sounds, emotional sequencing designed to stick. Not an attack. An invitation. Within hours, ships across nearby sectors started going dark. Communications garbled. Some relayed strange messages about dreams, ancestral memories, flashes of unknown faces and wars never fought. Entire outposts began lighting up with emergency quarantine codes last used during the Earth withdrawal. He gave the galaxy a day to notice. And they did. A High Council Emergency Summit was called. Not the official one. That would take weeks. This was faster, dirtier. A shadow conference of 8 species, each with classified records on Terran history, each hoping the others didn't realize how much they'd suppressed. Malric patched into their encrypted channel. He didn't wait for permission to speak. "Gentlemen," he said, "and otherwise. I'm awake. Which means your safeguards failed, your protocols expired, and your myths are about to get real inconvenient." A reptilian delegate growled. "What do you want?" "To be left alone. You should have just ignored the vault. Let sleeping gods rot. But now, you made it my responsibility to make sure this never happens again." A mechanical ambassador chimed in. "What is your intent?" Malric leaned toward the mic. "To remind you why we buried ourselves." Silence. He continued. "Your civilizations are standing on bones. You've built your peace atop our silence. And now you've proven you can't be trusted with it." The transmission ended. Not because they cut it. Because he did. He didn't wait for a reply. He was already loading coordinates into the vault's ancient propulsion system. There were other bells. Other vaults. Other sleepers. He wasn't going to wake them. He was going to warn them. Because someone else had started building again. The signatures were subtle, but familiar. A new power in the outer spiral. Patterns too human to be coincidence. They weren't ringing bells. They were forging weapons. Malric stared into the void, watching the starlines twist around the vault's exit vector. He whispered to no one. "I hope you're not like me. I hope you never have to be." Then he was gone. The tribunal hall floated in neutral space, a relic of 1,000 peace talks that never held. Now, for the first time in centuries, it was full. 73 delegates. No press. No civilians. Just leaders, soldiers, and spies from across the galactic rim, all trying to understand one thing: how a single human was destabilizing everything. The delegate from the Varn Confederacy spoke first. "We agreed humans were extinct." "They're not," the Threx ambassador growled. "We found signals. Our stations are reporting hallucinations, crew-wide panic events, coordinated AI malfunctions. This is not legend. This is an active threat." A synthetic diplomat from the Coraxis Alliance countered. "It's one man. One human. We have 7 fleets. You're afraid of a myth." A low voice joined the conversation from an unsecured frequency. "Then why are you meeting in secret?" The room fell silent. No one moved. The signal repeated. 73 species. 700 fleets. Dozens of empires. One man. And you're holding a summit in the dark. Why? Identify yourself, the Varn delegate demanded. I have a better idea, the voice replied. You listen. The screens around the chamber flickered. One by one, they began to display Earth's final broadcast, decoded in real time, streaming in dozens of languages at once. It wasn't a warning. It was a memory. The fall of the Sothian hegemony in under 4 hours. The Event Horizon weapon. The last war chorus of the Terran Flame Corps. Tactical doctrines that shattered armadas without launching a single missile. Testimonies of alien prisoners who begged to be erased rather than live with the dreams Earth left in their minds. Then silence. Not the peaceful kind. The suffocating aftermath of too much truth. I'm not here to fight your fleets, Malric said over the comm. I'm here because someone out there is building something we buried for a reason. The Threx delegate leaned forward. You mean the Spiral Choir? That's the name we gave it, Malric answered. What's yours? The Threx didn't respond. We assumed, Malric continued, that if Earth disappeared, no one would try to recreate the horrors we held back. We underestimated your pride. The Coraxis representative cut in. And what exactly are you proposing? Threats? Demands? Another war? No, Malric replied. I'm proposing a demonstration. A signal pinged. 73 delegates received coordinates at once. Check your outer colonies, Malric said. I've already been there. Screens shifted again. Footage of abandoned mining worlds lit in spiraling glyphs, symbols burned into rock, messages no one remembered writing. AI cores shattered. Children muttering songs in extinct Earth dialects. No death. No damage. Just echoes. You're not killing us? Someone asked. Why would I? I'm not your enemy, Malric said. But I am your proof. If I'm here, it means others might follow. And not all of them are sane. The Varn stood. You speak as though you weren't one of them. Malric paused. I'm trying very hard not to be. Another delegate asked. Then why now? Why reawaken after 5,000 years of silence? Because someone out there rang a bell, and it didn't just wake me, he said. It signaled something worse. Something even we couldn't destroy. We locked it beneath the spiral and erased the coordinates from every human mind. But if someone found a way to reverse the erasure, then containment's already failed. A younger representative, trembling, asked. Then what do we do? Malric didn't answer immediately. When he did, his tone changed. Stop treating humans like a story. Stop hiding what we were. You kept our memory buried because it made you feel safe. You thought fear would fade with time. But fear wasn't the problem. Ignorance is. He uploaded one final data packet. Not a threat. A manual. Blueprints of the protocols Earth used to contain the Spiral Choir. Codes, technologies, ancient logic traps, and psychological vaccines meant to shield the mind from what lay beneath the spiral's song. I'm not here to relive Earth's war, he said. I'm here to stop yours. The tribunal fell silent. Then the Varn spoke again. If we refuse? Then I disappear, Malric said. And I wait for the next call. And eventually, one of us answers without mercy. Is that a promise? No, he said. It's history. He terminated the connection. In the chamber, delegates stared at each other. No one moved. No one knew what came next. But across the stars, strange signals began to rise. Old Earth broadcasts. Songs with no origin. Names etched into asteroids in forgotten tongues. Colonies reporting dreams they couldn't explain. The Spiral Choir wasn't singing yet. But someone had started to hum. And Dren Malric was already gone. They didn't call it a tribunal anymore. Not officially. The word had become too heavy. Too historical. The new term was Containment Assembly. Softer. But everyone in that orbital fortress knew what it really was, a theater of fear. The chamber was shaped like an old cathedral, restructured with modern alloy but built around design blueprints from humanity's archive. No one understood why that aesthetic lingered in galactic memory. They assumed it was intimidation. It wasn't. It was function. Dren Malric stood in the center, unarmed, no armor, wearing only a black jumpsuit stitched with an obsolete Earth emblem, a spiral broken in half. The delegates formed a circle around him. 73 species represented. Psionic dampeners. Kinetic suppression fields. Antipsychotic aerosols slowly misting from vents. And still, they all flinched when he looked up. The lead delegate initiated formal inquiry. "State your name and origin." He responded without hesitation. "Commander Dren Malric. Final Epic Division. Tactical Anthropologist, 1st Choir Containment Corps." The Coraxis liaison shifted. "Choir containment?" Malric nodded. "Earth didn't win the last war. We contained it. There's a difference." The Threx ambassador rose. "We've reviewed your claims. You're suggesting the Spiral Choir still exists. That it's active. But no trace of its influence has been detected since the Concord's fall." "You're not looking in the right places," Malric replied. "You're scanning for weapons. It doesn't build weapons. It builds worship." The room tightened. The Varn spoke next. "Why did you engage multiple Karth fleets without authorization?" "Because they rang the bell." "What does that mean?" Malric stepped forward. "The bell is a failsafe. 1 of 7. Each tied to a cryokey unit encoded with Earth's last human inhibitors. Me. Others like me. Our minds were the locks. The bell was never a warning. It was an awakening." The sorry delegate hissed. "Why were you locked in the first place?" Malric held his gaze. "Because we weren't sure we could be trusted." Silence pressed in. A delegate from the Rim Syndicate finally asked what no one else dared. "Are you here to start another war?" "No." "Then why are you here?" Malric looked up at the ceiling, a dome of obsidian glass that reflected the stars outside. "Because someone is building a god, and none of you remember how to kill one." He stepped to the center platform. The psionic dampeners buzzed in response. The AI in the room adjusted light levels. Security protocols scanned him again for hidden weapons. But he wasn't armed with anything they could detect. He cleared his throat. "Initiate subroutine, Terra Invocation." No one moved. Then the walls began to breathe. The lights flickered. Every delegate's neural link buzzed at once. Not violently. Just enough to trigger a cascade of confused thoughts. Fragments. Sensory memories. Images they didn't recognize, yet felt intimately familiar. A battlefield made of silence. A song played backward over screams. The smell of blood on pages that had never been written. "What are you doing?" the Threx delegate snapped. Malric spoke slowly, evenly. "I'm not doing anything. This building is. You've kept it in orbit for centuries, used it for negotiations, diplomacy, summits. Never once asking why humans built it like a cathedral." The Varn's eyes widened. "It's not a design." "No," Malric said. "It's a ritual." He stepped forward again. The air grew colder. One delegate's skin began glowing as ancient biotech embedded in their genome activated reflexively. Another tried to stand and collapsed. Their memories were rearranging themselves. "It's a theater of truth," Malric said. "A space where no one can lie, not to others, and not to themselves." A scream cut through the air. The sorry delegate convulsed in their seat, eyes white. "I see them. I see Earth burning. But it burns backward." "That's the choir," Malric said. "It doesn't speak. It remembers. It turns your past into prophecy." The containment assembly broke into chaos. Dozens rose from their chairs, shouting orders, demanding exits. But the chamber wouldn't open. The AI, once dormant, now obeyed a different set of commands, human commands. Legacy overrides embedded in its architecture, programmed by a species that didn't trust memory but encoded it anyway. "You thought the choir was just a weapon," Malric said, raising his voice over the panic. It's not. It's a mirror. You wake it by remembering too hard. By believing too much in your own myths. And you've been feeding it for centuries with your rituals, your fear, your suppression of truth. The Threx delegate clutched their head. What do we do? You listen, Malric said. The chamber went still. The walls displayed Earth's final broadcast again, not the footage from earlier, but a deeper layer, one only visible within the right architectural keyframe. The choir, in its earliest form, shone in a pattern of pulse rhythms and neurowave imprints. Not language. Not song. Recognition. The AI translated it aloud. You are not gods, it said. You are echoes pretending to be thunder. The delegates shuddered. The chamber unlocked. Malric walked to the edge of the platform and stopped. I didn't bring you here to intimidate you. I brought you here to inoculate you. The choir spreads through reverence. Through silence. Through forgetting. But if you remember, truly remember, it weakens. Where are the other bells? The Rim delegate asked. They're dormant, Malric said. For now. But if one more activates, the system reboots. And then I can't guarantee what wakes up next. He paused. I'm not your savior. I'm your buffer. He turned to leave. Wait, someone called. What happens now? You study, he said. You remember. And when the spiral sings again, you don't pray. You answer. He vanished down the corridor. Behind him, the tribunal didn't adjourn. It sat in silence, every species staring at what they couldn't unsee. Earth wasn't coming back. But its warnings had arrived. The outpost had no name. No traffic logs, no trade codes. It floated on the edge of a rogue system, hidden behind a radiation field dense enough to block most sensors. Inside it, a boy no older than 12 sat alone in a bunk, humming a tune no one had taught him. He didn't know the words. But they came anyway, effortless and familiar. A low-frequency signal pulsed through the atmosphere. Ancient tech embedded in the walls shivered back to life, drawing on a power source no engineer remembered installing. Screens flickered, not with data, but with faces, human faces. Faces that shouldn't exist. Dren Malric stood aboard a vessel older than most empires, orbiting that outpost from a distance. He didn't move, didn't speak. He just watched. The choir had found another conduit. A new voice. That child's humming wasn't innocent. It was a memory being rewritten in real time. Malric tapped his console. Vault 7, initiate drift. Cloak passive. Do not engage. The AI responded with a quiet chime. He didn't want to risk exposure. Not yet. The tribunal had listened, but their silence afterward wasn't agreement. It was shock. And shock didn't last. Bureaucracy always came next. Doubt. Denial. Then war. The signals had increased. Not just in outposts. Core systems were catching fragments now, tunes embedded in civilian comms, glyphs blooming across data streams. There was no pattern. But he'd seen enough to know what it meant. The choir had started to remember itself. The galaxy hadn't understood what Earth buried. The spiral wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It didn't destroy fleets. It destroyed coherence. Species would wake up believing they were someone else. Wars would start over events that never happened. Cultures would collapse under the weight of rewritten pasts. And no one would question it. That was the trap. No warheads. Just belief. Enough belief, and reality cracked on its own. Target signal source, Malric said. Trace to origin, then overwrite with containment Psalm 7. The AI hesitated. Psalm 7 will induce recursive memory erasure. Collateral likely. I know. Subject is a minor. He won't remember. He'll sleep. A pause. Confirmed. The child below yawned and curled into his bunk. The signal collapsed. Static filled the air. Across 100 sectors, similar echoes dimmed. For now. Malric leaned back and closed his eyes. He'd been trained to kill. To infiltrate. to destabilize enemy states. But this wasn't war. This was cleaning up someone else's mistake centuries after the cost had been paid. He was the debt collector Earth never wanted to send. The AI chimed again. Ping received. Source unknown. Pattern match, Bell 2. He opened his eyes. Location? System registered as Haitian's Reach. Former mining zone. Decommissioned. Signal strength rising. He didn't move. Just stared at the coordinates, blinking slowly. The second bell had been triggered. Not by him. Not by accident. That meant someone else had woken up. He patched into the tribunal's emergency channel. It was no longer secure, but he didn't care. This is Malric, he said. Bell 2 is live. I need containment crews dispatched to Haitian's Reach immediately. Do not send diplomats. Do not send politicians. Send warborn and priests. Anyone who remembers Earth's last war. Static answered. Then a voice. Are you activating the others? No. Then who did? I don't know. Pause. What's your plan? Same as before. Intercept. Assess. Prevent. And if it's one of yours? Malric breathed in. Then I remind them who we were. And if they don't remember, I'll make them. He cut the feed. There was a reason they were locked away separately. Each bell was tuned to a different emotional frequency: guilt, grief, rage, devotion. His was restraint. He was designed to wait, to calculate, to weigh every move. But others weren't. The one buried in Haitian's Reach? That one had been volatile in peace and nuclear in war. Malric prepped the ship. He thought about Earth. Not the cities or the flags, not even the final choir lines broadcast during the Concorde collapse. He remembered a woman in a bunker, telling him softly, "They'll only wake you if they're desperate. Make them regret it." He already had. Now he'd do worse. As the ship jumped, he transmitted one last message to the child's outpost. Not a warning. A lullaby. Let him sleep a little longer. Let him grow without voices in his dreams. One human awakening was enough. For now. But the galaxy was ringing bells it didn't understand. And the choir was listening,